Hey, it's Jack, and today I want to talk about learning all the notes of the fretboard. Now, the guitar has basically six strings, and you can kind of think of it as six different pianos because one of them is lower, it starts here, and then, of course, the further down you go, the higher the notes are. And some of the notes repeat, so it could be a little different, rather than a piano, you just got to count your way all the way across. So this one is kind of the way that I approach learning it. Now, I don't have it memorized where I can like instantly name every note, but it only takes me a few seconds if you use this technique. And it's basically six steps, but it's really five steps because one of them repeats. And you might say, why would I need to learn all this? I got a great ear. I can find this. I know, I have tablature. I can figure out where to put my finger and that kind of stuff as far as put my fingers for the frets and the notes and the chords and all that stuff. So why do I need to learn this? Well, it's really important once you get into learning scales and chords and that kind of thing. And even if you only play by ear, you may come across a situation where you're going to be playing with someone else and they might just say, hey, let's jam in B minor or something like that. And your ear may be super awesome, I guess, and you may know B minor perfect pitch and all that kind of thing. So I guess maybe you don't need this video. But for the rest of us mortals, it's helpful to figure things out. Plus, as you go through the scales and the chords and you see how chords come from scales and you use the chords to know what scales to play and that kind of thing, then it's really helpful to be able to know the notes. Now, I would say at the minimum, you want to learn the first two strings, which is the low E and the A string. At the minimum, you want to be able to learn those notes because the bulk of your chords are going to come from there, even though, of course, there are a lot of other ones. But most people that do bar chords, they use bar chords that are based off an E and an A chord, and you're going to use those strings for roots. And also, as I get into videos about the three different scale patterns, pentatonic, and then you have diatonic scales, but I guess you could kind of split those between three notes per string scales and cage system, then it's going to be really helpful to be able to identify what note it is. Because by memorizing a pattern and then you add a note to that, you can come up with shapes and scales and see how they interact, and it really just helps you to use this. I forget who it was I heard, but they say you have 22 frets, why not use them all? And without knowing all the notes, it could be more difficult. It's not impossible, but it could be more difficult. So how do we go about it, and what are these steps? The first thing, as I said, is you want to use the E and the A string. You want to memorize those first, rather. And I would suggest, if you're new to this, if you're starting out, that you use these dots. I have these bird inlays thanks to Paul, but a lot of guitars will have either a trapezoid inlay, or if you look here on the top of the neck too, probably can't see that, but there are dots on the neck. So let's check out. Before that, actually, I got a little ahead of myself. Is you want to be able to know a chromatic scale, which is basically the alphabet of notes, and they go in a certain order. So with that, if you can figure out what note you're on, then you should be able to walk your way right up and figure out what the next note is. Let's say it's 7 frets higher or something like that. And it's just like with the alphabet or numbers, you want to add up. If I said, okay, you're on letter C and you need to go up 4 letters, C, D, E, F, G, if that's even 4, I'm not thinking straight. But anyway, you get the idea. So I suggest definitely memorize the chromatic scale, or at the least, you want to have a picture of one written out. And I think right here, I'll throw this up on here if my video is working. And this way you take a look at this chromatic scale, and then again, it's a continuous loop. So it just doesn't start at A and end at G. If you're on D, you can work your way all the way back around through G, through A, back to D, that kind of idea. And the same thing goes for the guitar. So that's the first thing that is kind of a prerequisite, is you need to know the chromatic scale. Okay, so let's talk about learning the notes on the E and the A string. Now, I don't know anything that's really a shortcut to this, except like I said, you might want to use these dots. If I look on my guitar, and I'm pretty sure it's similar to most guitars, I'm going to have a dot at the 3rd fret, the 5th, the 7th, the 9th, and then the 12th. And at the 12th, a lot of guitars will have a double dot. And what that means is it's an octave. And basically, you're back to the same note. And again, I refer you to the chromatic scale. So in other words, the open string is an E, and I go 12 frets up, I get another E. Okay, if I was at the 5th fret, A, and I go 12 frets up, which would be the 17th fret, then I have another A. And you might notice that here we had 3rd, 5th, 7th, 9th, and then you can see if I treat this 12th fret like the 0 fret, then I got 3, 5, 7, 9 again, which in actuality are the 15th, 17th, 19th, and 21st fret. So that's, I think, the reason they put the dots on there. It's a quick reference point. I would suggest learning these notes first. Then, if you use the chromatic scale, you can figure out all the other notes that are in between. So let's just go over them real quick. I know it's simple, but again, this may be beginners, advanced, whatever. Hopefully this helps. This is what I do. So 3rd fret is a G. Okay, you got to know your open strings too. So E, G, 5th fret A, the 7th fret is a B, the 9th fret is C sharp, which could also be D flat, but you get into that when you get into music theory. And then again, we're at our octave. So we're back to E. Then we have another G, A, B, and C sharp. So, once again, how does that help? Sure. Please silence all cell phones while I'm instructing. Let's say I wanted to find a D note on the E string. Well, I know C sharp, and again, if I look at my chromatic scale, I can see that the D note is right after the C sharp. Each one of these frets, I probably didn't mention this already, equal one step in the chromatic scale. So if I want to go from C sharp to D, I simply go up 1 fret. And now I'm at the 10th fret. And there's my D note. Okay? Same thing if I wanted to go to F sharp, and I know that the 3rd fret is a G, that means 2nd fret is F sharp. So after you play songs, and hopefully you can make up some practice for yourself where you're kind of playing some chords, and maybe you rewrite some chords and then try to find the notes. That's the best way to do it. You're going to start to learn 1st fret is an F, and you'll know that the C, which is another common note but is not on a dot, again, 1 step above the B. Okay, you're going to notice that there are no sharps or flats between E and F and B and C. Here's E, only 1 fret to F, and here's B on the 7th fret, only 1 fret to C. If you look at a piano, that's the thing I try to keep in mind. You might have wondered, why are there 3 black notes on a piano and then 2 black note keys on a piano and that kind of thing? And the reason for that is because all the black keys represent either sharps or flats. And the place where there are 2 white keys next to each other is either going to be an E and an F or a B and a C. Okay? I don't remember exactly off the top of my head right here, but I guess you have B and C, then you have a C sharp, a D sharp, and an E flat. So those would be, you have C sharp and D sharp, which would be 2 black keys. Then you're going to have the E and the F, which will be the 2 white keys together. And then you're going to have F sharp, G sharp, and A sharp, and then you come back to B and C again. So there's your answer. Anyway, long way around. So let's look at the A string real quick. Hopefully you're getting the idea here. 3rd fret is going to be a C note. Again, open A. 3rd fret is C. 5th fret is D. 7th fret is E. Okay. And the 9th fret is F sharp. And then we're back to A on the 12th fret. And then again, C, D, E, F sharp. So if I want to find a G note on the A string, I know it's going to be 1 pass, just like remember here. We know this is G, F sharp was 1 behind. Well, if this is F sharp at the 9th fret, I know 1 step ahead is G. Great. So again, I could have written down all of these frets, 3, 5, 7, 9, and put what each note corresponds, but you got to do some work. It's going to make you memorize them faster. So that's my suggestion. Start with the E string. Memorize E, oops, E, G, A, B, C sharp, and back to E. And then start filling in the gaps. And then do the same thing on the A string. Okay? C, D, E, F sharp, and back to A. And start filling in the gaps. Now, where's the trick to learning all the other notes? You know, Jack, we got 4 other strings. Well, there are tons and tons of fretboard pictures that have every note. And the problem is that you kind of get in between the in-between notes. There can either be called a sharp or a flat. So basically, kind of how my mind works and what's worked for me is I try to only memorize the notes that are what I guess they call natural notes. They're not a sharp or a flat, which would be A, B, C, D, E, F, G, which on, by the way, is a C major scale. So that's an easy way to memorize that also. So I know I said start with these, but on the E string, right, here we had a sharp in the 9th fret, and the same thing on the A string. So you could just go ahead and find all the whole notes, write them out if you want on a piece of paper. Okay, I'll give them to you here on the E string. Open, 1, 3, 5, 7, 8, 10, and then back to 12. On the A string, open, 2, 3, 5, 7, 8, 10, and 12. Then start filling in your notes from there. So let's get to the formula or the kind of the trick I use in order to find any note on the guitar. Your next string is a D. So if you look at your chromatic scale, you know D is 2 frets lower than an E, or a whole tone. So if you have the E note string memorized, all you need to do is subtract. So if I'm playing the D string at the 5th fret, and I say to myself, self, on the E string, the 5th fret's an A note. I subtract 2, this must be a G. Follow? Easy enough. And if you know anything about octaves, which I'll go over in future videos on scales, there's my octave and there's my G note. I know that's the same. Okay, so same thing. Let's take any note here. 11th fret. I know on the 11th fret on the E string that this is a D flat. So that means that this one must be a C sharp. Did I even say that correctly? Yeah. D sharp, not D flat. 11th fret is D sharp. 2 steps down would be C sharp. You get the idea. Next string is a G string. Get the same exact thing, except with the A. It's A minus 2. You could think of it that way. So if I have the 7th fret of the G string, I know the 7th fret of the A string is an E note, so that means this must be a D. Again, I can prove it with octaves. Okay, simple formula. Now we get to the B. Can you guess what it is? It's A plus 2. Let's do the same thing here. B string, 7th fret. Okay, 7th fret of the A string is an E. This must be F sharp. Okay, octave. And then, lastly, the high E string. And this may sound silly, and maybe I'm just, you know, a little slower than everyone else, but it's the same string as the low E, so all the notes are the same. So you don't even have to work. That's why I said it's kind of like 5 steps. Okay, so you know 5th fret A, right? 10th fret D, 1st fret F. You already learned that one. Real easy. Again, I encourage you to use this in whatever creative way you can come up with. You can just maybe get a chart of the fretboard that has all the notes on it, and then pick a random note, say, let's say the 14th fret of the B string. Okay, so I'm going to do A plus 2. I know this is a B note, so it must be C sharp. And then check on your chart and see if you're right, and do that kind of thing. And also, definitely, another thing that helps is being able to play the same note in different places, like this, Whoops. Sure, not a good example there. Okay. So you want to be able to do that. There's the other one. And that's just going to help you to check out the fretboard more and more. Again, as I go through some other things in the future about scale patterns, how the different things build on each other, the thing that's been working for me is to break the patterns into tiny little patterns. And then starting on the root note, identifying where your root note is, which of course you have to know the notes of the fretboard to do that. You can build quickly patterns, and it's a little bit easier, I think, in my mind, in the beginning, or maybe even if you've memorized the patterns across 6 strings, this may give you some new, creative insight or something. But in order to do that, you've got to know the notes on the strings. Okay, you've got to know the notes on the fretboard. And I suggest, again, you start off with the E and the A, and then use this simple formula to get all the notes of the rest of the guitar. So hopefully that's helpful for you. If you have any questions, please let me know and subscribe if you haven't. Thanks for watching.